In this video, we are going to learn how to work with scaling your materials. So that means how to determine the scale of materials that we apply in renderings, how to change the scale of materials in the materials library, how to apply scaled materials to a surface, and then how to check that materials are scaled correctly once applied. So in the previous video, we started applying all of these materials from the list or materials library that we created in SketchUp. And we brought in these images or textures really, and we placed them in their locations. So we have the flooring, area rug, the textured wall, and the marble behind the on the accent wall and ceiling. Now, though, it's time for us to make them look a little bit more realistic. Obviously, we're not doing a full-blown like V-Ray where we're making it look more photorealistic. We're just trying to make the materials apply correctly to where they look balanced and show to the best of their ability. A couple of things we need to do. We have to determine which one we want to work on first. So first, we can start with the flooring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my tags and I'm going to turn off the furniture layers, excuse me. And then I'm going to go back to my paint bucket. And again, for whatever reason, if your paint or materials list is not open, you can click on the commander up here on the toolbar, the paint bucket, and it'll bring it open. And if you need to go and locate that, just find your materials list that you made. Now, there's a couple different ways that we can do this. One, we could try modifying by right-clicking on the thumbnail and clicking edit and adjusting the width and height. Now, for whatever reason, SketchUp on my Mac has been a little funky with wanting to take in and adjust the scale of the materials, because obviously you can see that this one has been adjusted and it's very like set to 20 feet, but those planks are still showing as really small. So it doesn't always work like it's supposed to. I find sometimes it's like a difference between a Word versus Mac. So if you run into this issue where if you in theory are in edit mode and you make it and you say 10 feet and we select that because we didn't change the aspect ratio and we hit close. And if I try to modify that and apply and it doesn't change the scale, that's not great because you're like, oh, it's not working. So mine's not taking those adjustments for whatever reason. So here's another way of doing that where we can use and modify the texture using pins. So what I can do is I need to go into select mode. And this is not grouped right now. So this is perfect. You need to have a raw face that's not grouped. So if you are working with a section that's grouped, make sure you go into edit mode to be able to get this to work properly. So I'm going to select the face with the material that I want to change, and I'm going to right click, and I should see an option called texture. And then when I hover over that, I want to click on position. So it's going to pop up with this grid and these pins, mainly for the most part, because this is already flat and there's no distortion and I'm not trying to mess or skew with anything. So I can pretty much leave this one for distort texture and this one to scale and shear the texture alone. We're just going to play with the move and the rotate, or you can scale using this kind of tool as well, or pin as well. So what I'm going to do is, for example, I can see that it's moving in, or it's running in a horizontal direction. I could use this and rotate it if I want to actually make the flooring run in a vertical direction, like if I wanted it to run in this orientation. So all I'm doing is pressing and holding with my left mouse click button. And if I press and hold and kind of move back, it is starting to scale up this texture, and you can always let go and restart that again. And so now you could see that it's getting larger. So if this is the orientation that I want my wood planks to be running, it's perfect. And I can just keep doing that. And then I could use the move and adjust if there's anything that needs to be adjusted with where it positions on here. If I need to adjust that rotation a little bit, maybe I was a little off on, I can just kind of tweak that. And I can play with the scaling. Now, remember, when you read the module, there's math to this on actually formulating how many planks we should be seeing. So last I checked, I think this was 12 feet wide. So if we do 12 feet and we turn that into inches, it's 144 inches. And so we divide that by 6 if that's the width we want, and we could have about 24 planks. So you could literally sit here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you can kind of start to get the estimate of like, does this look appropriate? But that's like your math of how you can check yourself of like, are you feeling like this is in scale? And overall, this is looking really good. So once you get these pins adjusted, and it does take some finessing and playing, it's a little confusing the first time you go to move these, but once it's there, you just press enter and it now accepts and it has modified that floor for me. And so now if I go back and I turn on the furniture, you can see how the furniture is looking with the rug above it, and the planks look much more appropriately scaled, because if you see right here, that's what it was originally. And look how small that was. So that's definitely like not appropriate. So it doesn't matter, because then our rendering, we wouldn't see this portion of the model anyway. So we're just focused here because that's what we'd actually be seeing. Now we could do the same thing to our rug a little bit. We could sit there and go, let's play with this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just, if I turn off the layer, it's going to turn the rug off too, because of I've got the rug on the furniture layer. So what I'm going to do is just hide the furniture for a minute to get it out of my way, so I can adjust my rug. And just like I said before, right now you can see that this rug is grouped. If I right click, the texture option is not going to show up. So you're like, well, how do I fix this? So we need to go into edit mode, and you need to select just the top face, because again, we're not worrying about the sides. And if you have just the top face selected, we should be able to get the, in theory. Oh, I did this earlier and okay, let's see. Okay, I just reapplied the material and now I'm getting my texture option. So whatever reason it wasn't doing it, but there it is. So I now can do the same thing, and I can go position, and I can figure out how I want this to look. So when I'm starting this, I can, let's go ahead and start like right here. And I can see that the tiling is a little off. So I'm going to try to scale this up a little bit, and you could always rotate. Now this is going to show really big. I'm going to press enter to show you, like, obviously that's a jute and the texture is showing really large, but now we're not getting all that tiling. So this image itself is a little hard to work with, just because it's kind of tiling, because there's a gradient in the actual pattern itself. But when you turn your furniture on for this one, oh, I actually hit it. That's why I gotta undo, unhide all. There we go. That actually is not looking too bad, because we're not so focused on this. But if it is showing a little too big, just go back again, double click. Let's go back to texture, position, and we can play with that scale a little bit, and you could bring that down. And so we might end up with a little bit of a seam, but then we're not seeing the actual like material texture so large, but we're not seeing as many repeats. So that actually works out really nicely and looks a lot better. So that gives us our rug. Now, lastly, you can do the same thing over here. You can determine based on the material. Now you would know the dimensions of this like before you applied it, because you would have already researched this product and what you're wanting to do. And so you would need to determine, does this need to be bigger or does this need to be smaller? So again, I could do the texture, I can position it, and I could adjust that scale, and I can make it a little bit smaller. Oop, don't rotate. I don't want to rotate. And I can make that a little bit smaller and determine if that looks better, or if want to go and have a bunch of tiling. So you can see how that looks. So that just again, you just need to know the product itself and what's actually being applied to determine which one is the correct one. But that's how you can position textures and modify them with the scale with using the pins and just modifying the texture. So again, there's always the option to right click and edit here in the list we have, but it doesn't always work. So if you're on a Mac or PC, I don't know why. I have for years it worked fine. And then lately it's just not wanting to do that for me. So this is my go-to on modifying scale of materials and positioning. So either or, it's one of those that they both serve the purpose. So that's it.